Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums. Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? 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 We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi. Hello, and welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. You know, it's actually been a little while since I've kind of done my spiel at the beginning of Zoo News. So let me remind y'all that this is a crowdsourced news program. So if you happen to see anything that you think might be Zoo News worthy, go ahead and send it to me. You can either email me, rossifaripod@gmail.com, or you can tag me in things on socials at Rossifari everywhere except for on the TikTok machine, where it's also at Rossifari Pod. And if you send me stuff, I'll say your name at the end of the episode. So yay that. Okay, moving on from that. Hey, quick friendly reminder that Valentine's Day is coming up. And if you're a person who does the whole V-Day candy thing, this is a great time to take a gander at the orangutan-friendly candy guide that Cheyenne Mountain Zoo puts out every year. You can see that on the socials, but make sure that you're getting candy that uses sustainable palm oil, please. Now, before we get to our actual zoo news this week, I need to say a big thank you to two people at Adventure Aquarium. As y'all know, I love Adventure Aquarium, and the last time that I did some episodes from there, I heard from a lot of you about the fact that you apparently love it too, or at least you really liked those episodes. And yeah, those episodes went really well, but there was one small problem. See, when I got to the aquarium and went through the fancy back entrance, I had to sign in with security, which meant I had to put my water bottle down as I signed in, and then, like an idiot, because it was very early in the morning, for me anyway, I left it at security. And this was a bit of a tragic experience for me, as I got that water bottle when I visited Moat Marine Lab back in early 2021, and I have literally carried it with me everywhere since, getting all kinds of cool stickers for it, and just like, it's a part of my life now. I was actually really upset when I realized I left it there. But of course, I reached out to Sea Star of the Year, Lauren, and she stepped in and she saved it for me. But then it just wasn't possible for me to get back to the aquarium, like for a long time. I recorded those episodes at the end of May of last year, and Lauren kept my water bottle on her desk until she accepted a position at a different place. And knowing how much I love my water bottle, she reached out to let me know she was leaving and that she still had it. And when I told her I just couldn't get there, she transferred it to Sam, another guest who you've heard on the podcast and who was part of that whole love fest back when I released these episodes. And Sam has dutifully kept it on her desk until I was finally able to get my water bottle this week. The bottle just sat there, taking up space on the desks of two different people for, like, seriously, 8 months. But they took good care of it. Lauren even cleaned it for me. And also she cared enough while moving jobs to make sure it got a good home. And of course, Sam also took care of it and had it sitting there as a daily reminder of what a failure I am, I suppose. And I know it's silly, but honestly, that really meant a lot to me. I'm constantly amazed at the good people that I meet while doing this podcast. And, you know, a lot of times those people illustrate their goodness in kind of, I don't know, small ways. And this was one of them. I know it was just a water bottle chilling on a desk, or, well, 2 desks. But it really did mean a lot to me. And it was so nice to be reunited with my water bottle. So thank you, Sam. Thank you, Lauren. And thank you, you know, Adventure Aquarium for just being an awesome, awesome place with great humans. All right. Enough about this. Let's get to it.
We've been taking care of pandas.
All right. So, as always, we will start with our births this week. The Memphis Zoo has announced the birth of a pygmy slow loris, or pygmy slow lorlet. Now, zoo vets quickly realized that the baby wasn't going to make it on his own, so they stepped in to hand rear him, leading to some really adorable photos on the Memphis Zoo social media pages. Highly recommend you check those out. And hand rearing a slow loris is no small feat, despite the fact that it has very small feet, as the baby needs to be fed every 2 hours, all day and all night. So, they are really doing a lot of work there. Now, while the baby doesn't have a name yet, the zoo is allowing the staff that is caring for him to ultimately choose the name, which I think is awesome. Always grateful to the amazing vets and keepers doing this work at zoos around the country. Sedgwick County Zoo has announced the birth of a Colobus monkey. Mom and baby are doing quite well together. So well, in fact, that baby hasn't left mom at all yet, so the sex of the kiddo is still unknown. It is a little cutie, though, and you can check out the Sedgwick County Zoo social media pages to see pics of this adorable Colobus monklet. I do like monklet. And then last but not least in births this week, does anyone else have a hard time saying births? It's not really a word that you say a lot because, who talks about multiple births a lot? But I can't tell you how many times I have to cut me going like birth. Yeah, you're welcome for that. There's a little ASMR for y'all. Births. Anyway, I apologize. I'm in a goofy mood today. But the first ever rockhopper penguin to hatch at the Fort Worth Zoo entered the world late last year, and the zoo has finally announced it. Her name is Darcy, and she joins a family of her mom, Dot, and her dad, Frederick. So far, they have been attentive parents, but beyond that, with only one chick around, the entire colony seems to have taken a liking to her. She is getting constant preening and love all around. Congrats to everyone at the zoo. And of course, that brings us to our deaths this week. The teaching zoo at Moorpark College said a fond farewell to Samantha, the northern white-cheeked gibbon, this week. She was one of the zoo's longest-living residents, arriving at the original location of the zoo back in 1981 when she moved there from the San Francisco Zoo. People in the area often said they discovered the zoo when they heard Samantha sing and looked into what the noise was. That's how they found out that there was a zoo there that then became their zoo. She was a great ambassador for her species, both for the guests who saw her and for the countless students who learned how to be a primate keeper from her and the other primates at the zoo. She will be greatly missed. Cleveland Metroparks Zoo has announced the passing of Inge, a 30-year-old female black rhinoceros. At the time of her passing, Inge was one of the top 5 oldest female black rhinos in the world. She was one of the most beloved animals at the zoo by staff and guests alike, many of whom grew up seeing her at the zoo since she arrived there back in 1997. Sending condolences to everyone at the zoo. Bramble Park Zoo has announced the passing of T, the gray wolf. T was 11 years old and started showing signs of pain and an unwillingness to eat recently. Veterinarians weren't able to figure out what the problem was, so to ensure that he didn't continue to suffer, the decision was made to euthanize him. A necropsy revealed that T suffered from an irreversible spinal condition that caused his pain, so at least they were able to get confirmation that they made the right call. I always feel like not knowing has to be the hardest part of that process for the vets involved. T was a shy and timid wolf who left a mark on everyone who loved him. Sending condolences. Jenkinson Aquarium has said goodbye to Checkers, an African penguin who lived at the facility. Checkers lived her entire life at the aquarium, hatching there back in 1995. She was an incredible ambassador penguin, often participating in education programs and definitely making the people who met her fall in love with her species. Sending love. The Birmingham Zoo has announced the passing of Moyo, a 6-year-old male rhinoceros. Moyo was placed under anesthesia recently in order to do a simple dental procedure and a reproductive assessment in the hopes that he would be able to breed. After he was awakened from the anesthesia, Moyo was unable to stand. Now, for the next 2 days, the zoo did everything in their power to figure out what was wrong, including bringing in rhino experts from around the world. But no one was able to solve the riddle, so the decision was made to euthanize Moyo. A truly devastating loss at 6 years of age. I feel so bad for the team at the zoo. And finally in this section, the Pueblo Zoo has announced the passing of Taz Jabari, a 22-year-old male lion. Taz, as he went by, lived at the zoo from the time he was 1 year old back in 2003. He was especially enthusiastic about special enrichment items, including old Christmas trees, frozen meat pops, toilet paper, and anything with whipped cream in it, something I think most of us can relate to. Most African lions live 10 to 15 years, so this is an incredibly long life that the zoo is celebrating. And that brings us to our regular zoo news for the week. Do you remember the good old days when none of us really knew what Miami Seaquarium was? Sometimes I really miss those days, but, then along came the tale of Toki and the potential rehoming project and the fight over that and then her passing. And now we all know that there is a theme park cum animal park that is in disrepair along the Miami waterfront that we all cringe whenever we hear about. It's lovely. Also, if anyone's still in the group Truth for Toki on Facebook, people just fight constantly in there about this. It's some kind of torture to watch it. But anyway, apparently inspectors have been visiting Miami Seaquarium recently and citing an increasing number of problems with the facility, including weird rashes on some animals and tanks that are completely in disrepair. As such, the city of Miami has let the ownership of the facility know that if they do not move quickly to fix their issues, the city will be doing everything in its legal power to rescind the lease that allows the park to exist. I know that there are a bunch of logistical questions that would come into play should that happen, but I am all about it. So yeah, some pretty good news. Hopefully that turns into a thing, All right, now I know that a lot of you are red panda fanatics, and those people may already know this, but if you don't, did you know that red pandas are escape artists? You wouldn't think it to look at them, but they have actually shown to be one of the harder animals to keep properly contained. The good news is that usually when they get out of an exhibit for any reason, they aren't actually trying to escape. As a matter of fact, I think that is another word we need to examine, similar to how a lot of us who talk about animals in human care are trying to move away from the captivity word. But I guess that's a discussion for another time. But anyway, so when the pandas are discovered out of their exhibit, they usually end up placed back in their proper homes with no issue or argument. And that is the case of Barney, a red panda at the Cologne Zoo in Germany, who recently was found outside his exhibit, just chilling in a tree right there, right outside his enclosure. Staff was able to quickly clear guests from the area, and they brought in the fire department to bring a ladder because, honestly, Barney was just so contentedly chilling, he was unwilling to come down even for snackies. So they got him down and put him back into his home, and he was perfectly content. The only issue that he seemed to have was whilst taking the nap that they woke him up from, he was a little annoyed that he was woken up, and he grumbled at them when they woke him up, which I think is adorable. That's just really cute. But other than that, everything was fine. And the zoo believes that what happens is that the bamboo in the enclosure got bent to a weird angle that allowed him to reach the tree outside his exhibit because of a heavy and wet snowfall. The Toronto Zoo has announced that they have 2 new residents hanging out in their behind-the-scenes outreach and discovery area. Tamanduas. I love these lesser anteaters so much, and I'm so excited that Toronto has a pair now. While they are behind-the-scenes animals for now, there are plans to have them on mini adventures throughout the zoo come the spring. I think this is going to be a great addition to an already amazing zoo. The tamanduas don't have names right now, and you can help select their names by voting on the Toronto Zoo social media pages until February 6th. Under consideration are name pairs of Swift and Kelsey, Barbie and Ken, Wanda and Cosmo, Bruno and Mirabelle, and Pacha and Yzma. I cannot imagine that Swifties won't hear about this and lock that duo down, but you can go and vote for whichever name pair you like the most. The Georgia Aquarium has announced a new exhibit area opening up in 2024. The area is called Explorers Cove and will feature not 1, but 2 touch pools. The pools will have sharks and rays and have windows open on the sides so that people of all heights, or all bending abilities, will be able to get a side view of the pools as well as the standard top-down view. The exhibit will open in summer of 2024, which will also feature a brand new dolphin presentation. The new exhibit and dolphin presentation are the highlights of the changes the aquarium is making this year, but there is more, including a revamp to the River Scout exhibit featuring new species and a brand new 2-story cafe. Now, I don't usually get too excited about things like cafes at zoos and aquariums, but I have to say, I always thought the system at the Georgia Aquarium was severely lacking, though the food was solid. I'm excited to see what they have done with the cafe there, because it was definitely the worst part of the aquarium, which is, really saying something when you think about it, that a facility that big, and the only complaint I really had was that I didn't love the cafe. So nice of them to fix that for me, I guess. All right, there were actually a lot of stories that I got this week, so I'm going to take a moment here to do some quick hits. Southwick Zoo has announced that it's time to apply for their 2024 summer internships with the Zoo and Earth Limited. This is an opportunity to get amazing hands-on work with the animals at the zoo, and to get to work with our friends Danny Poirier-Larson and Emily Macinda, formerly Emily Begay. She's married now. Congrats, Emily. Though, to be clear, that work will be decidedly not hands-on, as they are both happily married. Thank you very much. But yeah, you also get to learn about conservation education stuff too. There's a lot of really good stuff at Southwick Zoo, so check out the zoo's socials for more info if you are interested in that internship. 2 black spider monkey infants have been confiscated during an attempt to illegally smuggle them into Florida and have now found a temporary home at Brevard Zoo. The SSP will work on finding them a permanent home once they are healthy again. This is the 2nd week in a row that we discussed spider monkeys being confiscated as people tried to smuggle them into the U.S., with zoos stepping up to save the day. And speaking of confiscations, the Denver Zoo is now home to a Joffrey's cat named Dia. The zoo was contacted back in 2022 and asked to provide a home for Dia during the trial surrounding her confiscation after an illegal attempt to fly her into the Denver airport, and agreed. Dia has thrived at the zoo, so much so that she now gets to be a permanent resident there, with the investigation finally behind her. Yay, Denver Zoo. Busch Gardens has announced that Luna, one of the resident orangutans at the zoo, is pregnant. They even shared a sonogram. Also, one of the keepers there, who I know online, just posted the sonogram as her story, and she got so many people who thought she was pregnant and so sent her congratulations. And yeah, I was one of those people. Tricky Danielle. And then last but not least in the quick hits, retired NFL quarterback Tom Brady recently visited our friends at Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary and got to meet some animals, including a koala. Now, I know a lot of people hate Tom Brady, which I actually think is ridiculous. We should stop hating the people who are the best at what they do, but that's a story for another day. But I think it's extra hard to hate someone who loves koalas, so I thought that was very cool. And then last but not least, in the Zoo News section this week, the naked mole rat war continues at Smithsonian's National Zoo. So at the beginning of January, I did a deep dive into the social structure of naked mole rats in light of the queen being toppled at the National Zoo. A month later, and the plan of succession is no closer to being figured out. It seems that there are lots of would-be queens, and they have all formed factions that are battling it out day after day during this crazy war. Keepers say there is no reason to believe they are any closer to seeing an end to the war than they were a month ago when this started, and have described observing the natural battle as honestly very stressful. I'm just amazed this war has gone on this long and shows no sign of stopping. What do they think they are? Humans?
Conservation! Conservation! News time! Oh yeah!
Now, I often lament the fact that social media is bringing changes to our society that I think are truly detrimental in many ways. It's definitely the way I sound the most like a grumpy old grandfather when I start to complain about it. However, there are positives as well, including the fact that I interact with all of you on there. Another perk to social media is that as people get dumber about it and feel the need to share everything on there and think that nothing they post can get them in trouble, poachers have started outing themselves online. There are many stories out there of poachers either getting caught selling meat and or trophies online, but even better than that, some poachers just brag about what they do online and then they get caught. One example happened recently in Virginia, where a land manager would dump bags of corn into fields he managed, and then charge hunters to come and illegally hunt the wood ducks that would flock to the pond because of the corn. These poachers started posting about their successes online, and I have to laugh at the fact that they were bragging about their ability to hunt wild ducks, but the ducks were, baited there. And the posts led to the poachers being caught and fined. Play dumb games, win dumb prizes. And speaking of hunting, Colorado has canceled hunting season for mountain lions this year because of protests and anti-hunting opposition. While hunting enthusiasts are trying to fight the ban, the only argument they have made to date is that it's not fair because it was proposed by anti-hunting groups. So, I actually have a proposal here. Let's allow mountain lion hunting in Colorado again. But with one caveat. It has to be fair. So the hunters can head out into the wilderness, naked and armed only with their bodies, and commence the hunt. After all, they want it to be fair, right? Otherwise, I don't think the fairness argument is going to get very far here. And yes, I realize there's some, let's say, faulty logic in that obviously facetious suggestion I just made. But these are people who want to shoot mountain lions for sport, so screw them. Now, we talk about climate change on here a lot, obviously. And one of the things that we have touched on a bunch is that as temperatures rise, ice caps melt, and sea levels rise. This can have a devastating effect on coastlines, and especially on the properties that exist on those coastlines. Now, Massachusetts and Rhode Island state governments are considering trying to buy out homeowners that have valuable properties in flood-prone areas before storms wipe their homes out. Apparently, the coastlines have degraded so much, scientists are now predicting that it won't even take a big hurricane-sized storm to wipe out a lot of these expensive homes, and that instead even just smaller storms may do the trick. I'll be curious to see if the governments go ahead with this proposal, and if they do, whether homeowners will be willing to take the buyouts or take their chances. As a side note, I try not to be political too often. I know I say that and then get political, but I just see there, it's not even everyone. It's not even all Republicans or all conservatives, but there is a segment of that group of people who are in literal denial about what climate change is doing and talk about it a lot. And I can't help but wonder if maybe, a lot of the people make their decisions based on that and go across party lines. And if so, that's just heartbreaking to me to allow yourself to be so misguided and so tricked into believing that this huge issue isn't actually an issue. And then the fact that that might lead you to stay in a home that could then get destroyed because of the issue that you're in denial of is just heartbreaking to me. I genuinely hope that's not a thing that happens. But I digress. Last but not least, in conservation news this week, we have a new species alert. A new isopod species has been discovered, given the scientific name Borellana nicorum. Isopods are deep-sea crustaceans that are the cousins of the common roly-poly, if you want a mental image of what we're talking about here. The crazy thing is that there is every reason to believe that this species has existed for millions of years, but we only recently discovered it. The discovery was actually made back in 2019, but it took this long to do the work to fully understand the animal and decide that it truly was a unique species. It is crazy to think that in 2024, there are still species waiting to be discovered, including ones that are millions of years old. What don't we know about Gaia, our Mother Earth, yet? It's incredible and inspiring to wonder that sometimes.
It's time for other news. It's time for other news. Hey, now, right now, now it's time. It's time for other news. Hey, it's a segue to the part called other news.
A new study has come out looking at same-sex sexual behavior in mammals, specifically seeking to understand the role it plays in mammal societies. The study was done using phylogenetic analysis, tracing evolutionary relationships. The study's authors concluded that such behavior may have evolved to, in part, establish, maintain, and strengthen social relationships and increase bonds and alliances between members of the same group. The study demonstrates that this behavior is functional and plays an important role in the lives of mammals who engage in it. The study found that same-sex behaviors were observed in 4% of mammal species, or 261 individual mammalian species. And as a quick reminder, or for new listeners, I did an episode a little while ago with an author named Elliot Shear who put out a book called Queer Ducks that really dives into the science of this topic. And it's a fascinating interview and a really interesting book. I highly recommend that you check both out if you have not done so yet. A tractor trailer carrying zebras and camels for a circus caught on fire on a highway in Indiana last week. Now, don't worry, everything's fine. State troopers were able to get onto the truck and evacuate all of the animals, including 5 zebras, 4 camels, and a miniature horse. The officers led the animals off the trailer, where they started grazing the grass on the side of the road, appearing unharmed and honestly quite content. The entire road was closed during the incident for the safety of the animals, which is a good thing. But it also makes me a little sad because when I first read this story, all I could think of was what it would be like to be driving down a highway and to see camels and a small herd of zebras. Still, better to take care of the animals, I suppose. I'm actually really impressed with the cops who were able to get on and handle this situation calmly. And actually, some of the cops who rescued the animals did go to the hospital for smoke damage, although they were released and are okay. But all of the animals were unharmed. So pretty valiant effort and very, very impressive work. And then last but not least in other news, last week I mentioned that Buffalo Bills fans had donated over $100,000 to a cat rescue organization in the Buffalo area that Bills kicker Tyler Bass supports. Now, this was done as a sign of solidarity and support after he missed a field goal that could have tied the Bills' divisional round game with the Kansas City Chiefs, who instead won the game, moved on to beat my beloved Baltimore Ravens, and are now headed to the Super Bowl. You know, the Kansas City Chiefs, who have a tight end named Travis Kelce, who is dating Taylor Swift. Well, Swifties heard about the donations being made and decided to chip in. Her fan groups online ended up suggesting that Swifties should donate to the charity as well, and they did in droves, taking the total donated up from just over $100,000 from the original donations to over $260,000 total. That's incredible. I love this so much. I mean, that's just people using power for good, you know? And it wasn't Taylor who suggested to do this. It was her fans, which is amazing. It's amazing that she's cultivated a group that is willing to, you know, find a good cause and take good care of it. You know, I've seen a lot of people frustrated that this couple exists and stuff, and I've seen all kinds of viral stuff about it. But I got to tell you, I think it's kind of adorable, and I'm a fan. I'm a fan of people being happy and in love. I do wish that she would stop flying her private plane everywhere because, you know, that's not great for the world. But like, overall, I think it's very cool. As a matter of fact, speaking of the memes that I've seen online, I've seen a bunch of people post this one that has a picture of a baby elephant that says, "Did you know that baby elephants are born weighing 250 pounds? That makes them the second largest babies behind people mad that Taylor Swift goes to football games." Now, as a conservation educator, I need to point out that there are bigger baby animals than elephants, most notably blue whales, which can weigh around 3 tons at birth and actually gain around 200 pounds a day, the size of an elephant, when they're first born. I agree with the sentiment of the meme 100%, and also really like the picture of the baby elephant. So, you know, 2-for-1 deal.
Oh, animal, holidays. Animal, animal holidays. Hey!
All right, so it is February, and February is many animal months, making up for January. And we have National Bird Feeding Month, International Hoof Care Month, Fishing Cat February, and Adopt a Rescue Rabbit Month. So that's very exciting. Today is February 2nd, which is Groundhog Day. 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 And if you haven't seen the movie Groundhog Day, this makes no sense to you, and I apologize. But also, what is wrong with you? Go see Groundhog Day. It's an incredible movie. The second is also Hedgehog Day, Armadillo Day, World Wetlands Day, and Ostrich Day. Then the 7th is Reverse the Red Day, which is an entire day focused on getting people to make commitments to take actions towards saving species, which is cool. But yeah, yet again, we have a week with 5 animal days on one day, the 2nd, and then one on another, and then none on the other 5 days of the week. I really think it's cool to have specific days for species awareness. I really do, but we have to do a better job spreading them out, or else some of them get lost. But I know, y'all know this, I say it all the time, and none of us have the power to fix it probably, but I hope maybe someone who's listening does. And if you're one of these people that wants to work on getting a day to happen, try to make it a day that's exclusively your day. Just a thought. All right, so there you have it, another episode of Rossifari Zoo News. I would like to say thank you to my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, and Jenny Owens. And I'd also like to thank everybody who contributed to this week's episode, including Anya Keene, Colleen Lenahan, Kim Cooley Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Andrew King, Jacob Zinn, Kristen Khalil, Dr. Laura Shank, Jess Wells, Liz Dunleavy, Melissa Reed, who I also found out is the mysterious Missy R from TikTok last week. A tricky Missy. You can't go by Melissa on one thing and Missy on it's just not right. It's just not fair. And then that brings us to, of course, Ali Malensky and Kay Malensky, the Malenskys. And, going along with that, I actually had a listener reach out this week and just say to me, I get that stupid Malenskys thing that you sing stuck in my head and just it like lives there. So thanks for that, which I found hilarious. But it's extra funny because I just like the name. They're actually really cool people who I've gotten to chat with more and stuff because of all of this, but just two people who contributed to the podcast and now have a theme song that get stuck in the head of some person they've never met. I enjoy the weirdness of this. And then finally, I should have said this name before I said all the ones with stories, but last but not least, contributing this week is our good friend, Sam Evans from Honolulu. Thanks, Sam. All right, so I guess that's all we got. So we'll be back with another episode from Scoville Zoo on Tuesday. And until then, remember, friends, the words newsy credits backwards are Steiderkiswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo. And if you're a person who does the whole V-Day candy thing, wow. 2 confiscated black spider monkey infants have been